Welcome into the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Really excited for this next guest today. This guest was brought to me by Alan Warren, and I was really excited about this particular book as it is regional here to the Midwest, and a case that actually involves one of my favorite restaurateurs, believe it or not. They expanded into the Midwest here with Portillo's recently, within the last 10 years. And I was not, I'll admit, I'm not familiar with Brown's Chicken, although the case of Brown's Chicken and Pasta and the Brown's Chicken Massacre goes back to the 90s. So to be able to dig into this case in Patrick Wohl's latest book, Something Big, The True Story of the Brown's Chicken Massacre, a decade-long manhunt, and the trials that followed, is a book that takes a deep dive into this entire case and really gives us an idea, not just of the players involved, but of the absolute frustrations that it took over Palatine. It took over the entire area of Illinois to try and bring the killers of 7 innocent people that were working at that Brown's Chicken that night, and really the frustrations of that small town of Palatine, of just trying to figure out why violence came to their town. And we'll talk to Patrick a little bit today about why it was so unusual that this sort of activity happened in that area of Illinois. Let me tell you a little bit about Patrick, and we'll bring him in here. Patrick Wohl is an author and lawyer originally from Illinois. He received his law degree from Georgetown University Law Center and attended the George Washington University. His first book, Down Ballot, tells the story of a campaign for state representative that drew national attention because it was viewed as a proxy battle for larger political issues. I want to welcome in for the first time to True Crime Tuesday, Patrick Wohl. Patrick,
Tim,
thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. First of all, enjoyed the book. I really did. And you know, what's funny is I've actually been to a lot of those areas in Illinois. So when you're talking about these different stomping grounds of Illinois, I'm seeing them in my mind. And so it's eerie. It's eerie to I was in some of those areas at that time. It wasn't my first brush with knowing those different areas. So I'm getting creeped out as I'm reading your book. I got to tell you.
Well, being from the area, that's part of the reason why I was interested in writing about this story, is because, like yourself, I grew up, I'm familiar with those places. I grew up not too far from Palatine where this took place. And you mentioned Brown's Chicken, the restaurant, which was just it's still around, actually. There's about a dozen locations. I recommend it to anyone who is in Chicago listening. But I grew up knowing about the story. It was always on the news. It was unsolved for so long that it would pop in and out of the news, the papers. I grew up eating at Brown's Chicken. There was a franchise near where I lived, and like a lot of people, it was just followed this very intensely over the years. And I was surprised in looking back at this, when I just started this project, how little had been written about it, especially in the last 20 years, with this, influx in true crime podcasting and books and just such an intense interest. And so decided to take another look.
Well, we talk about how big Brown's was at one time. I think you had mentioned in the book there was almost 100 franchises at one time of Brown's.
Yeah, there were over 150 locations, and it was mostly in Chicagoland area, but in Florida and Kansas City area, there were tons. So they were all over. This was a huge franchise. And that's part of the story too, is when a business becomes associated with a crime, how it impacts them. They now just have like a dozen locations. And part of the reason is the connotation with the story. And because it took so long, people were sort of associating this horrible event with the restaurant, even though they had obviously nothing to do with it.
Well, and there's kind of a help and a kiss of death all in the same deal here. And we'll talk about it a little bit later in the program, because in order to solve this case or in order to move things along, sometimes you need a little help. And really, there's a program here that kind of helps, and we'll talk about it later. But that can be a kiss of death too. And and what's interesting is Frank Portillo kind of says, "Could you please not?" Which I find that kind of interesting. Uh, and you're right. There can be an association, either positive or negative, that can really make things sing. When you look at his other franchise, Portillo's, and you look at how good the food is now, he's sold off that franchise, I believe, right? I mean, that's
Yeah, yeah. So it's actually his brother. So that's the two brothers that
Portillo,
started these.
yes, yeah.
Yes. So for people who've ever been to Chicago, like they probably know the name Portillo's. It's that it started off in Villa Park, Illinois, as the dog house. It was just a hot dog stand, and it was funded in part by an initial investment from the founders, Dick Portillo, his brother Frank, who was the founder of Brown's Chicken. So you have these two sort of men who came from very humble means, actually kind of grew up in poverty, I would say, and built themselves into these two quintessential titans of industry in Chicago. Unfortunately, the obviously Portillo's is much larger and succeeded in a different way. It's a public company now, which is wild. But yeah, so a lot of people will be familiar with the restaurant for that reason.
Yeah, and they've well now I mean not only does it's interesting when you and if we can just talk restaurant for a moment and then we'll get into the actual case, but I mean you look at the fact that Dick vacationed in Florida and Arizona. He had restaurants in Florida and Arizona, and for a long time, like you said, it was a Chicagoland based restaurant, but he had the franchises where he vacationed or where he hung out. And then all of a sudden, as they expanded, as he got ready to sell, then they kind of creeped into Wisconsin and Minnesota, and they then it was like you could tell that something was getting to happen with the business because you could tell Dick was getting ready to get rid of it because
Yeah.
we're starting to creep outside the borders of Chicagoland.
Yes. Yes. Well, they certainly did well for themselves. And I wanted to talk about the restaurant in the book because I think that's an interesting part of this story. Obviously, there's the tragedy of seven individuals who were killed, which I know we'll talk in depth about, but often people don't know much about the restaurant. It has a really interesting history. It was founded by John and Belva Brown. They were farmers in the southwest suburbs of Chicago. They decided to just open up a little trailer and sell fried chicken, and then grew it up into this huge business. We're connected with Frank Portillo, who was a young man at that time, helped with some renovations to the restaurant, and then eventually became one of the co-owners of the restaurant as they built it up and franchised. And the brand became really recognized throughout Chicago. Their logos, this kind of weird chicken that it's kind of hard to even tell it's a chicken, but it was their golden arches in Chicago, all throughout the area. And the founder, Johnbrown, actually had a tragic end just a few weeks before the massacre in Palatine in January of 1993. A couple weeks before then, the founder actually killed himself, and it was obviously a horrible tragedy. And what people didn't know is that just a couple days later they would experience an even worse tragedy at one of their franchises. So they were really going through it in 1993.
Yeah. This whole story kind of has this overtone of tragic end to it, doesn't it? I mean, even though, like you said, there's still franchises there in Chicagoland. I mean, it's it's the fact that there's this sad overtone to it. And again, I'm not going to. There's spoilers that I don't want to hit in this book. I want people to. I encourage people to go get this book because there's so many layers to this story here that you put together here, Patrick. Uh, let let's let's talk a little bit more about that dynamic between Mr. Brown and Mr. Portillo, because it's an interesting one. It seems that even though Mr. Brown has the idea and that it's a good idea, it's a good wholesome idea, Mr. Brown isn't really. I mean, he's business savvy, but he's not quite as business savvy as Mr. Portillo. Mr. Portillo really has the business sense and knows his way around government, whereas Mr. Brown had a little run-in with the government, didn't he?
They did. They were when they were very early on in the business, or were shut down by the health department when they had their small little tractor trailer selling chicken in the suburbs. But you're right. Frank was the one who really built the business up and pushed the franchises. He was much younger than John Brown and a few decades his junior, and so obviously had the energy to do all that. But he certainly came in at the right time and built it to what it would eventually become. So yes, they had that kind of dynamic of him as the founder and the figurehead and the person who started the company, and then Frank was the businessman and really the brains behind the operation in the end.
The one thing I don't want to tip off too much to Mr. Brown's end, but the one thing that's sad, it seems like, is Mr. Brown really does sink his life's blood and energy into the restaurant, and he did seem to pull away from his family quite a bit. Why do you suppose that is? It seems like the people that get involved in Brown's Chicken really seem to put their life's energy into this restaurant. They don't seem to. It's a good way of putting it. And I'm talking everybody from Frank Portillo to Mr. Brown to even the managers of the franchise,
Mhm.
the fated franchise that we're talking about here today. Everybody seemed to put their blood, sweat, and tears down to the last dime, Patrick, into Brown's Chicken.
Yeah, and I I spoke to John Brown's son, the founder's son, and he told me about what it was like to, have this business be built up and be a part of it. The kids would be there, making coleslaw and frying chicken and cleaning up tables, and it was a family effort in the beginning there, as well as the Portillos. I think they actually lived in the basement of one of the restaurants. So it was certainly an all hands on deck thing, and I think the like you said, the business kind of got in the way of the family. Eventually, him and Belva divorced. She took over with the original franchise and ran it as her own, and the kids became much closer with her, at least as it's told by her family, excuse me, his family to me and her family. So yes, it certainly was all consuming, as you can understand for anyone starting out a business like that. Even running a single restaurant is an all hands on deck effort.
Yeah, most definitely. What I love about this book, Patrick, what you've done is you've taken and you've introduced us to all seven victims of this Palatine Brown's Chicken massacre, and you've broken it down into their individual stories, and then you've brought them together, and you've also introduced us to the shooters as well, and you've even the people involved, the ancillary people around the shooters, and you've brought them all together. You've introduced those parts, and then you bring them all together, and then you bring us into that fateful day, as well as the investigators. And so we really get a full scope of everybody and all the players who are involved here. And you bring us right into the investigation, and we feel that frustration. We feel the frustration of everybody. We feel the frustration of the people trying to build the business. We feel the frustration of the people who are trying to just make a living working at the Brown's Chicken. We feel the frustration of of the investigators who are trying to figure out the case, and years of trying to figure out who would do such a thing, right? And in the frustration of the people who know but can't say, right?
Mhm.
I mean, there's frustration all throughout this book, and I got to say, it's a brilliant job of what you've done here. I want to slowly unpeel this onion as we do this, but I tell you what, let's take our break early because I want to jump back in and I want to start to talk about. I want to start with Lynn and Dick, who are the owners of the Palatine uh, Brown's Chicken, and talk about their story because it's an interesting one, in that they really took a chance and they gambled it all. And some would argue that they risked it all and lost it all, but some would say they probably succeeded.
Mhm.
I want to ask your opinion when we come back. Uh, the book, folks, is a fascinating one. It's a great one, and I encourage you to pick it up. We have a link in the description of this program. It's called Something Big, the true story of the Brown's Chicken Massacre, a decade-long manhunt, and the trials that followed. Again, we have a link in the description of this program. Patrick Wohl is our guest. When we come back, we'll talk about Lynn and Dick, the owners of the Brown's Chicken in Palatine, and we'll ask the question, did they risk it and lose it all? Or in the end, did they succeed? And is Brown's Chicken cursed? We'll answer that question when we come back, right here on the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. Welcome back to the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. My guest is Patrick Wohl. The name of the book, Something Big, the true story of the Brown's Chicken Massacre, a decade-long manhunt, and the trials that followed. Excellent book, folks. Again, link in the description of this podcast. I highly encourage you to go pick it up. Uh, Again, a fascinating story about this massacre at Brown's Chicken that happened. Gosh, it was what, 32 years ago now?
Mhm. Yeah. 30, yeah, 32 years ago. 30, it'll be 33 soon. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Mhm.
But again, something that happens in a community like Palatine, it stays around. I mean, that shockwave reverberates over and over again through time. I had teased before the break, Patrick, that the owners of the Brown's Chicken, they took a risk. Explain to us why Len and Dick are a married couple that decide they're going to take this risk. They have this family, and I believe they had three daughters.
Mhm.
Um, they took this huge gamble and decided that this is what they're going to do, that they're going to sink their money. And I'll let you tell the whole story here of why they decided to sink their money into this franchise. Um, we'll discuss afterwards whether you think they won or they lost, or what you think exactly was the outcome here. Tell us a little bit about Lynn and Dick and why they decided to sink their money into a Brown's Chicken.
Sure. And for context, for those who don't know, the sort of 10-second version of this story is essentially in 1993 there was a Brown's Chicken franchise that we've talked about in Palatine, Illinois, that was bought by a husband and wife couple, and their five employees were there working when two men came in a cold night, ordered a four-piece chicken dinner, and then eventually decided to kill everyone and put their bodies in the freezer and the fridge of the restaurant. And so this captivated the area. And like you said, I talk a lot about the victims in the book because I think in the past and in podcasts and other stories, often they're kind of just left out. They're just footnotes. And so when I spoke to some of the family members of victims, I really tried to keep it focused on those stories that they hadn't talked about before. So that's what I tried to do with this. So it starts off with Lynn and Dick Ehlenfeldt, who were the owners of this restaurant, and they had lived in Madison, Wisconsin, just before this. Dick had worked in politics in state government in Wisconsin, and they'd lived in Washington and worked on campaigns. She had worked in social services and had actually run a halfway house for women coming out of prison when they lived in Boston for a little bit. Dick was briefly in the seminary and then decided to work in politics instead, made a change. But he worked at a cable company in Chicago and commuted essentially back and forth. And it was hard on the family. They decided to move to Chicago instead and to the suburb of Arlington Heights, just outside of Chicago. And eventually he lost his job. There were cuts being made, and he was looking for something else to do. And the idea of opening a restaurant had always kind of stuck with him. He'd worked at a restaurant when he was younger. He liked the toying with things, changing systems, dealing with customers, and the kind of chaos of it all. And so they put their money into this franchise in Palatine. And at the time, Brown's Chicken was very well known. It was, you had proof of concept. There was advertising on the radio and TV. I recommend people look up some of their ads from back in the day. They're very good, including one with Steve Carell, who actually missed out on his chance to audition for SNL when Lorne Michaels and the team from SNL came to Second City Theater, where he was part of the company. He decided he was actually going to film an ad for Brown's Chicken Corporate instead because he needed the money. So he missed out. He missed out on SNL, but you can check that out online. But he ended up okay.
Yeah.
Um, it worked out. But in any case, they poured their life savings into this restaurant and turned it around, and it was kind of owned by an owner who was a little disinterested. It was, and so they really poured their heart into it, and it was, I mean, it was more than a full-time job for them. Lynn really enjoyed sort of utilizing her social service background and dealing with the employees and mentoring them, and they really were poured their hearts into this restaurant, and in the end, it was, to your question, it was succeeding. They were doing well. It was one of the better performing franchises in the area. And it was certainly an impressive effort for people who had no background in restaurants at all. And I spoke to some of the family members who told me about just how intense owning that restaurant was, and how hard they were working in the end there to make it all work.
And they really, I mean, they were so driven that there were times where they missed major events of their daughters because they were in the business. I mean, they were in that business,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, and the way their daughters, of course, talk about their parents is certainly loving and always present and at their soccer games and cheering on the sidelines with a cowbell and very very involved as a family as parents of with three girls. But yeah, it certainly took you know it took up a lot of time in the end there, and I try to talk about the impact that had on them and how the daughters handled it. But I think they were proud of their parents. They were making it work, and I think had they had more time, it would have been an even bigger success, which is an unfortunate aspect of this. And when the killers were found many years later, one of the uh, one of the things that was, I think, very shocking to the family was one of them said to me, one of the daughters said to me, they were exactly the kind of guys that their parents tried to help, tried to put time into and mentor or help. And so that made it an even more tragic end to things
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
this story.
The other thing too, I get the idea just from kind of the words that you put on the page, Patrick, is that the daughters were probably even more proud of the parents because not only could they see the passion that the parents were putting into the restaurant, but they knew, I think, deep down in their heart, like you had stated, had they just had a few more years, not only would they have made this franchise, probably the best franchise in all of Palatine or even the state. It probably would have been the best franchise in the state. Let's face it. But it would have been something that not only would had they grown it to its fruition it would have been something that should one of the girls had decided, they could have handed it down to one of the girls, and it could have been to the point where it had been automated, right? It's that type of thing where Lynn and Dick would have set it up, once they had done the hard work, that they would have had it running like a top, like a machine, and could have just handed it to one of the girls and said, "Here you go, and this is your inheritance."
And one of the interesting things about, or I would say, um, really sad aspects of this too. I mean, there's many aspects, but they had to deal with what to do with the restaurant after their parents were killed. And so there was discussion initially of, oh, maybe they'll run it or find someone to keep it open. And part of that was, I think, a push from Frank Portillo, I think, wanted to keep it open too, to just show that they were still there in Palatine in the community. And this wouldn't bring them down, but they decided to not do it because they were both, all three of them were either recently out of college or in college. They were younger, and it wasn't what their parents wanted for them. They wouldn't have wanted them to be stuck with that in the end, and take them off the track of where they were. So they decided to forego that, which I think was of course probably exactly what their parents would have wanted for them, is to pursue their own lives and not be stuck with that in the way that it was. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're right. It would have been something that down the line, I think, if it were their choice and they wanted it, then it's available to them. But if it weren't their choice, then of course they could go their own way. Um, let's switch gears. Let's talk about is it Kristinlennstrom, who is the first? Was she the first girlfriend of Jimdegorski?
Yes, this is one of the girlfriends of one of the killers. Tried to weave in some of the stories of people who were around and in that time. I think what's interesting about this story is that these two men who did this were really, um, they lived in the area where this took place. They were part of the community, if you will. Like, they went to the same grocery stores and churches and schools. The two killers went to Friend High School in Palatine. Um, and so they did this horrible act in the place where they're from. And Jim Degorski had a very violent past. He had um, beat up his girlfriend and threatened others. And that becomes a big part of this story, because it's one of the reasons it isn't solved earlier, because he threatens his subsequent girlfriend not to come forward, even though she knows what happened that night in January 8th of 1993. And so I think it's something I tried to do different in this book, is really give people sort of a chronological view of when these things were happening and the build up to their lives and their background. And instead of learning those things after the fact. This is different, I think, than a lot of true crime books, because almost about almost immediately, the first third of the book, who committed the crimes. And so the suspense and the story of it is not so much figuring out who did it, but the kind of ride along the way with the investigation and the people that were impacted. Of course, the victims' families, the police, and then people associated with the killers as well.
I like the fact that we know, because it shows, Patrick, just how they tried to avoid police throughout time, right? Because when you have a period of time that passes and the case is starting to go cold, you wonder exactly how a criminal gets away with laying low, right?
Mhm.
It's not necessarily that there's genius involved, necessarily,
Yeah.
you know.
No, I think there was certainly some dumb luck here, and although they certainly were trying to evade any detection. When this took place, the killers, as I mentioned, ate at the restaurant. And Juanluna, who was the other killer, had this four-piece chicken dinner. He sat down at a booth. He had a couple bites and then threw it out in the garbage can. Well, when police went to the scene much later, the restaurant was clean because the employees had been closing down, wiping the tables, taking out the garbage. But there was this four-piece chicken dinner there. And so they saved that evidence. They froze it, and eventually the case was able to be solved in part because DNA was extracted from that. A sample was gotten in '98, and then someone came forward to say who the match might be in 2002. So they certainly got lucky that in the sense that DNA technology in 1993 was not advanced enough for police to be able to use a DNA sample to connect anyone to the crime. But obviously, the crime scene technician who decided to freeze it and police who saw it were smart and prescient enough to know that technology was advancing such that they would be able to eventually. So that's sort of the wild twist to this case, if you will. But one of the things that's I think was often said in the early days of this case, or years even, they weren't entirely sure whether this was a robbery or not. And I think it's pretty clear for a number of reasons that it wasn't. The killers, when they were arrested, said as much, but also because Juan Luna, one of the killers, had actually worked at the restaurant. He knew the Ehlenfelds. He knew one of the high school workers there, Michaelcastro. So you don't go to a restaurant without masks and intend to get away with it if robbery is your intention and you're at a place where you recognize people. So the excuse or the motive that they gave to people and the title of the book is Something Big. They wanted to do something big, and that was the sort of sick thrill kill aspect of all this. But the fact that they actually knew these people, it makes it even more twisted.
I, to me, I kind of get the high school mentality. If I want to do something big, I want to make an impact, but to get negative attention like that, to say that I'm going to get, I'm going to get attention by doing somebody in, by killing somebody,
Yeah,
and
and they,
oh, I'm sorry. And just that you think you're going to get away with it, right? To
Mhm.
me is mind-boggling. I don't know about you, Patrick, but
It is, and it was a very, I think, untidy ending for the families in particular because it's a motive, but it really doesn't make any sense. Not that you can ever make sense of murder, I suppose, but this was just a really there was no excuse for it. It was just a sick thrill kill. So a very untidy ending for it. I tried to ask people, what do you think they meant by something big? And there's no really real good answer to that. And I think in a lot of stories like this, where it's a massacre or a mass murder or a serial killer, often there's repeat offenders. And or other crimes are committed or other murders. And that was not the case here. These two men committed these acts in 1993 and then lived pretty normal lives. Jimdegorski had grown up in the suburbs, had not been a very great student, not the smartest guy, but he uh, had girlfriends after that. He moved a couple places around the country. He found his knack at as a handyman and working in different businesses. He really had no significant criminal record other than some minor things, nothing that would suggest murder. And Juan Luna also lived a normal life after this. He had come from Mexico with his family to Chicago and then the suburbs of Chicago. Was a normal high school kid, just getting in, drinking and smoking and the kind of dumb trouble a teenager does, and then graduated and eventually got married, had a child, was working in the suburbs not too far from Palatine, and living a pretty normal life. So people were shocked, I think, when this happened, particularly for Juanluna, who was, I think, a little more meek and less of the instigator in this crime. And that was certainly how prosecutors played it out in the case, and I think how it came off to people who knew the two individuals, that Jim was sort of the lead there.
Here's the deal, though, Patrick. When you say you're going to go out and do something big, and you do something like this, it's not like uh, you can go to a friend or a peer, or even be in a bar somewhere and say, "Hey, you know that Brown's Chicken massacre? I I happen to know who did it, but I can't say anything." Right?
Well, yeah, I mean that's that's a perfect segue into what they did after the crime. Is they, you can't really tell people, obviously, but they did tell some people. Once they committed the murders and were covering their tracks, they went to, throw the gun in the Fox River and threw away their clothes in dumpsters. They called up their friend, whose name was Eileen Bacala, and she was working at a pizza restaurant that her and Jim worked at. They were very good friends. And he said to her, Eileen, come pick us up, meet us at the Jewel Osco parking lot, the grocery store. We did something big. And so she goes and meets up with them, and they drive to her house and smoke some pot, drink a little, and count the money. And they initially told her that they had just robbed the restaurant. But then as the night drags on, they decide to go home, and Jim and Eileen return to the scene of the crime. They drive past it, and they can see the lights there, and people, police, are at the scene investigating, and there's a crowd gathering. So he told her then that they murdered everyone at the restaurant. So she knew in that initial aftermath, and served as the alibi for the two men later on. They also told their his current girlfriend, Ann Lockett, Jimdegorski, current at the time. Um, uh, Ann Lockett had learned of the incident when she was in a psychiatric facility. She was recovering from a suicide attempt, and Jim essentially told her the same thing. Look at the papers the next day, essentially, and she knew then that that's what they were referring to. But she got confirmation later when she got out of the hospital. She was hanging out with Jim and Juan, and they asked her if she wanted to learn what happened that night. And they told her the full story of how they had come in, they'd eat the chicken, they killed the seven people, put their bodies in the freezer in the fridge of the restaurant, and then Eileen picked them up and they got away. But they threatened her in the end and said, if you tell anyone, though, we'll kill you. And so she kept that a secret for many, many years because, in part, she feared for her life, and they would keep tabs on her. Jim would sort of check in over the years and make sure he was always there. Obviously, she should have came forward sooner, but I think one of the things people learn in this book, in a different way, is that I think she was correct to be fearful, and there was genuine fear there. It wasn't just her not wanting to come forward. Obviously, should have done so sooner, but you can see there was a violent past with Jimdegorski, and certainly merit to being worried.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a story in the book that is quite heartbreaking. You talk about, Juan coming from Mexico and going back and forth and being able to live his life and have a son and being able to move forward with his life after this. But you talk about ricosolis, who, comes to this country and works hard and is proud to want to be a citizen. But is not able to live his life. His life ends at the Brown's Chicken.
Mhm.
Talk to us a little bit about Rico.
Yes. Well, Rico was a high schooler, who worked at the restaurant, and as you mentioned, he was an immigrant. He had come from the Philippines, from Manila, where he lived with his sisters and his grandfather. His mother was already in Chicago, and had been living there for a while he was in the Philippines. His father had been killed a few years before he moved, and so they decided finally to move to be with their mother. And so in 1992, they went to the suburbs and had a summer to adjust to life in America, and then got ready for high school, which is obviously a big transition for anyone being in a new area, a new high school anywhere, but just coming from another country and learning a new language, of course, is a whole unique challenge. And so Rico sort of dove into it, watching, American movies and TV and playing video games and trying to meet people. And one of the people he met in high school was a boy named Michael Castro, who was also he was Filipino American. His parents had come from the Philippines, and so they had that connection. And so while Rico was a little more shy and adjusting to things and improving his English, Michael was a much more outgoing guy. Was the person, as he's described to me, as who never met a stranger, was always on the dance floor at family parties, was very hardworking, very devout Catholic, and had worked at this Brown's Chicken franchise, and um, actually was the one who connected Rico when he had adjusted after a couple months to life in the United States. Michael said to his friend Rico, "Why don't you come to the restaurant, meet the owners, and start working here?" And so he did. He got his job there, started getting a paycheck, saving up money, and they were both, I think, very proud of the work that they did there, even though they didn't love Rico. And I think in particular certain aspects of it, like the smell of the grease at the restaurant that sticks to your clothes, and it not being always the cleanest work, but it was a great job for a high schooler, certainly. Um, and they mixed well even with the adults that work there too. Obviously, there's a lot of high schoolers that work at restaurants, but there were the two of them there that night, and then three other individuals as well, who I know we'll touch on.
Yeah, that what's interesting, and we'll get into the adults that were there that night too. What's interesting is everyone who died that night, everyone was under the age of 50. Which, as I'm sitting there and I was looking at the pictures in the book, Patrick, I just turned 55 last week, and to me, it was shocking to see that everyone is younger than I am now,
Mhm.
right? And I stopped and I went, wow, to think that your life stopped at that particular time, thinking the entire world is your oyster, right? And for a lot of those people that were working that night, with the exception of the managers who that was their life, their entire worlds were ahead of them. I'm sure they thought, there's other stops in their life. They had things that they were going to do with their life, and it just
And and it's a challenge for writing a book too, when you have the simple sad fact that some of the people who were killed, Rico and Michael, have just lived less life than some of the other people there, and so there's not as much to say necessarily. But I tried to include as much as I could, and try to portray them in a different way, where they're not just victims of this tragedy, but people who had lives. So I hope that comes through in the book.
very much so. I mean, you really do paint them with the life that they had, even though it was short, with the life that they had at that time and how excited they were to be there. You know,
Mhm.
um, most definitely. Um, you were mentioning there were three others that were a little bit older, but they were working there as well. Marcus, Lupe, and Tom. Let's start with Marcus Nelson.
Mhm. Yes, well, Marcus was a Navy veteran. He was a father who had a daughter. He had been divorced before this, and it sort of always stuck with him. He sort of blamed himself for it and was getting his life back on track to sort of reconnect and quit drinking and was going to AA and meeting friends and building a new life in Chicago, doing very well. He had actually been on the management track at the restaurant, and the other employees would joke that he was going to Brown Chicken University, which they thought was funny. But he was doing very well, and the job was a good change for him. There obviously were two other individuals you mentioned. Guadalupe Maldonado was a father of three. He had also moved from Mexico just 2 weeks before this, a little over 2 weeks, I want to say. And so was very new to this. It was not his first time in the United States, though. This was actually his third time in the US. He had lived in the suburbs before with his brothers, had worked at some restaurants. He was a cook, a very good cook, and um, had moved back and forth to the United States a couple times, and decided before Christmas of '92 that he was going to move with his wife and his three boys to the United States. And they needed some help though with it because it's obviously expensive to travel with a family, and he wanted to take the bus. His wife was not so happy with that because it probably would have been a many days journey. So his brother lent them the money. His brother, who was already in Chicago, and so they flew out and were there before Christmas, and were living with their cousins, his brother, his wife. Adjusted to life in America, and Lupe found the job at Brown's Chicken as a cook, and was someone who the Ihlenfeldts certainly loved having there because he was older. It's nice to have someone who's more reliable than children, and of course had experience in the kitchen, which was very very much needed there. And the final individual was a man named Tommennes, and he was described as a very sweet, but kind of quirky guy. He would ride his clunky bike around Palatine to work or to pool, play pool or billiards at an area bar. He was very thoughtful to the other employees, would help them out at night and make sure people were safe, and was just a very gentle soul.
And Tom actually decided that fateful night not to decided to go to work and not skip work. He decided that night that, hey, I gotta work.
Yeah, and there were a couple stories like that with some of the individuals who, two people switched and were not actually supposed to be there that night. Had switched shifts with people, one of which was Lynn switched with her daughter. And other people all had stories about wanting to be somewhere else or do something else. And but of course ended up there on that fateful night.
There's like a big basketball game at Palatine High School, I think, right?
Yeah, they were busy that night, so they needed all the help they could get. It was there were two high schools in Palatine, and Palatine's kind of a very classic suburb of a large city with a train that people take into the city and a little downtown area with cutesy shops and restaurants and things, and two high schools, Palatine High School and Friend High School. So that was a big night for the town, that crosstown basketball game. So they were busy.
Thank you for telling me how to say that. I read it the entire time and I couldn't tell you how to say that. It was because it,
Oh,
it looks weird because it's an M instead of an N.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bizarre spelling, but
He was a local guy. I think the school is named after like a local one of the founders of the town or something like that, or a trustee from years ago. So it's not someone anyone would know for the name Friend. Yeah.
okay. Okay, yeah, I was going to say it's one of those right. It's one of those local things that everybody locally knows how to pronounce it, but you get an outsider who tries to pronounce it, and you go, "How do you say that again?" You're like, "Come on, we all know how to say it. You should know how to say it too." Um, so let's talk briefly about the backgrounds of our killers. I mean, even though it's something you don't really want to spotlight, I you know we got to talk about Jim for a minute because his family background was just disturbing.
Mhm.
Um, and if we always talk about Patrick, let's face it, if you ever want to make the perfect killer, there's always you got to add a little from column A, a little from column B, mix it, put it in a pot, and boom, you're going to come up with the perfect psychopath. But boy, his family was a bit disturbing.
Yes, he had a very troubled family life, and it's interesting how much of this comes out. Obviously, I talked to a lot of people for the book, interviewed dozens of people, but one of the richest sources of information for something like this is the because this was actually a death penalty trial, was the mitigation phase of the trial, where you try to bring in essentially family members or friends and sort of, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, just garner sympathy for them in front of the jury so they won't sentence them to death. And so you learn a lot of details, very sordid details of their lives. Jim grew up with a couple siblings in the suburbs, and his father had schizophrenia. He would do all sorts of crazy things like monitor them in the house, and eventually his mother got a protective order from him. He left the house, but he would still sort of come around and check in on them. There was all sorts of sexual abuse alleged, and other things, and it was as one of the psychologists who testified at trial said, one of the most dysfunctional families she'd ever worked with. And so it certainly is not an excuse for murdering seven innocent individuals, but it gives you a peek into what his life was like before that. So, Jim tried to, I think, escape that, moving to a different area, trying to, do his own thing, find a job of his own. I think when he was younger, got in some trouble drinking and drugs, but I think was probably trying to escape some of that chaos. And Juanluna had come from Mexico, from Zacatecas, and lived a very normal life. Was going to high school, and like I said, just getting in the kind of doing the sort of things a high schooler does, drinking and smoking, and just killing time in the way that you would. But after he graduated high school, he went back to Mexico for a little bit and met his wife, and they had a son, and decided to move back to the United States. And he was working um, all sorts of jobs here and there, was working at an appliance store at the time, living in an apartment, doing the sorts of things a dad does, picking his kid up from school, and living by all accounts a fairly normal life for two men who committed such tragic acts. But Juan had worked at the restaurant, as I mentioned, and so in the immediate aftermath of this case, he was interviewed by police, because police talked to all of the former employees of the restaurant, anyone who had been associated with it. And uh, one of the police called them and said, "Come in for your interview," at the task force that they had set up. And so Juan went to the building, and he was all dressed up in a suit and tie, looking dressed up, and in his Sunday best for this interview, because he was told by Jimdegorski, you got to look good and make sure we don't raise any suspicion. And so one of the interesting things that one of the police officers told me, who worked this case for years, was they had sort of a classic board with all the faces of people associated with the restaurant or potential suspects. And when they went back to after the killers were caught, when Jimdegorski and Juanluna were caught, they looked at the photos, and Juanluna was the only one dressed up for his interview. So there are all sorts of little signs that at the time, of course, were meaningless. You wouldn't think anything of it, but looking back, it makes sense that they were kind of trying to be cute about things and evade detection. But it's almost kind of nothing's comical about this, but that thing is a little comical that they
Yeah.
thought for some reason, wearing a tie would make them not get caught. So
or make them look a little more stand-up-ish. Is that the word?
responsible.
Yeah, more responsible.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Like they would be an upstanding member of the community. And that there's no
Mhm.
way they could have done it. Yeah. Um, I had teased earlier in the program um, that that there was at one point we were talking about how the franchise number of Church's Chicken had gone down and down and down. At one point, Portillo is, and you had even said yourself, Patrick, that he wanted to put after the massacre had happened, he had wanted to put that franchise back in, even in that same building in Palatine.
Mhm.
Um, at one point, he wanted the killers caught so badly that he had turned to national television. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the connotation with the restaurant really was hurting business. I mean, in the initial aftermath of this, people were very, very afraid in Palatine and all throughout Chicago. I mean, this was a national story when it happened, and the coverage was very, very intense. I'll give just a quick example, sort of anecdote that illustrates just how well known this was at the time for people who are just hearing about the story now. I spoke to the woman who was the mayor of Palatine at that time. Her name was Rita Mullins, and she told me a story about how just a week or two after the killings in Palatine, she was in Washington, D.C. for a conference, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, which she was involved in. And she was at a gift shop looking at knickknacks, and she looked up from where she was, and she saw in the distance James Earl Jones, the voice of Darth Vader, one of the most well-known actors in the country at the time, who recently passed, of course. And she was certainly not a shy person, so she went up to him and she introduced herself. She said, "Hi, hi, my name is Rita Mullins, and I'm the mayor of Palatine, Illinois." And she handed him his card, and he looked at it and looked at her and just said, "I'm so sorry."
Ooh.
So people knew, even in the aftermath, across the country, just by hearing the word Palatine, about this case and what had happened, because it was getting such intense coverage. Um, and so that became just all consuming for uh, for the town and for everyone involved. And I think I forgot your initial question there, but I was just sort of illustrating the.
Uh, oh, so at one point, Frank Portillo has
Oh, yes.
not only gone to government and said, we need some intervention here, but
Yes.
he's also gone to national television. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So because the coverage was so intense and uh, it became known as the Brown's Chicken Massacre. It wasn't the Palatine Massacre or some other name. People associated with the restaurant. So people stopped eating there at other franchises. Their sales went down. And so Frank would try to go to, TV producers and call them up and try to tell them to, maybe call it something else. Maybe that's not the one you should do. They thought about renaming the restaurant, but they didn't want to do that because they didn't want to disrespect John Brown and Belvabrown, the founders. And so he leaned in another way, and he basically became a tough on crime sort of figure in Chicago. And he was, going down to Springfield, Illinois, and trying to get legislation passed having to do with retail theft and stronger prosecution of crimes committed at retail or restaurants, and got involved with a task force. It was the Chicago Crime Commission, which eventually worked with another nonprofit called the Better Government Association to put together a report that was basically just criticizing the police for their work. And he became a thorn in the side of the investigators because initially he was very helpful to them, and he bring chicken to the task force and try to give them information about the employees, or anything he could do to help because it was affecting his business. But he got frustrated basically that there was no progress in the investigation and it was hurting the restaurants. So he wanted to put it in the spotlight and push because he thought police weren't doing a good job. But that obviously it enraged them because there's only so much police can share with someone who's not part of an investigation. And so he became particularly strong a strong advocate of one lead that had to do with a jailhouse informant, that an investigator who was from the Chicago police who was helping the Palatine police, who was a very well-known homicide detective, and he pushed this lead that had really, in the end, did not have any merit to it, and became a distraction for police. But it was sort of an embarrassment for them because they just kept getting criticized for the investigation. And so I think he fell out of favor with the police in time, being so vocal with his criticism. But it's understandable when your business is totally failing and it's mostly attributed to something that is completely out of your control. Then you try to help in any way you can.
Yeah. And forgive the analogy here, but in the chicken business, we want to leave a little meat on the bone so people will go get the book. I want to wrap with this here, Patrick. I had teased also in the beginning of the program, is Brown's Chicken cursed? Now, you said that it's down to about a dozen franchises.
Mm-hmm.
And as you point out in the book, it's got the slogan, "It tastes great." Is it still the slogan, by the way, of Brown's Chicken?
Yeah, it tastes better is
Or it tastes
is
better,
the
I'm sorry.
slogan. Yes, yes, which came from a focus group they did. Yes, they still lean into that for sure.
Okay. So with that, and some people believe that when you come across a scenario like what happened in Palatine, you can only slide down, you can't come back. Do you think that there's some sort of a curse on Brown's Chicken and Pasta after this incident?
No, I don't think there's a curse of any sort. In fact, I would, I've eaten there recently. The chicken is still very, very good, and they're very well known for a lot of their sides, like fried mushrooms is a big thing that people love. Gizzards, people go there for the gizzards. Maybe that's not your thing, but for some people, they really like it. So. No, I think, there were other issues, that compounded with that, and it was just a series of unfortunate events for them. But I highly recommend if anyone's in the Chicago area and there's a franchise near you, check it out. It's still delicious and still a quintessential Chicago business that's part of the history of the area. So no, it's certainly not no curse there. In fact, I think they actually are opening some new restaurants I saw recently, so they must be doing okay.
Yeah, you had me at fried mushrooms. Those sound really good. Well, the book is available now. We have a link in the description of this program. Something Big is the name of the book. The true story of the Brown's Chicken Massacre, a decade-long manhunt, and the trials that followed. Patrick Wohl, I want to thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Tim. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it as well, my friend. Folks, let's lighten things up a little bit. Let's bring in Jessica Freeberg. It's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals.
It's Crayon News story time.
What happened with this dude, Christ Bearer? I heard he cut his penis off and then jumped off a balcony.
Suspect pulls gun from butt, shoots twice at Denver police.
What is your emergency?
I need help.
And what's the problem?
I'm too high.
You're too high?
Yeah.
It's that time again, the time you all been looking forward to. It's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals. And with that, I need a co-hostess. And I've decided I'm not going to go to the Midway to look for Princess Kay. No. She has her own butter sculpture and is doing well for herself. So we'll shoo her to the side. Decided as well, I won't go the free agent market and go to the waiver wire because I don't need a Minnesota Viking. They've got jobs of their own. No, ladies and gentlemen, I go to the Hindustan Times charts, where she's got not one, not two, but 3 books currently on those Hindustan Time charts, blowing up the charts, sitting at 1, 2, and 3. Ladies and gentlemen, she's witty, she's charming, she's funny, and she's darn easy on the eyes. And she's burning those charts up. Ladies and gentlemen, here she is, Jessica Freeberg. Jess, how you doing?
Hey, I'm great. Happy holiday week.
Oh, yes, it is Labor Day today. Or it was,
Yes.
well, today as we record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a short week, right? So that's a good thing.
We're laboring on Labor Day.
Because we love our listeners.
Yes.
We do.
Yeah. I don't know what a holiday is anymore. I have no idea. I celebrated.
It's
Labor Day.
true.
Yeah.
I feel like at Christmas time we were laboring.
Yeah, we were laboring at Christmas. We were laboring at Thanksgiving. We were laboring at Easter.
But you know what? When you do something you love with someone that you love doing it with, it doesn't feel like work.
Unless, of course, there's a prenup. But I digress. I don't know what that means. But yes, you're right, Jess. You're absolutely
Yes. It's the last day of summer right now as we're recording, right? Like official, it's over.
That's right. You know, the temperature is going to drop off the table like a Joe Ryan knuckleball.
I'm kind of ready for it. I love fall. Fall is one of my favorite seasons.
Yeah. But I mean, like it's going to drop off the table like 15 degrees. It's going to drop it like that, like in 2 days. Yeah. I mean, I'm ready for it too.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that'll get Spuddy out of the garage.
Oh, yeah. Hiding in there.
Ooh, yeah. She's I think she's getting mail there now.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's her official address.
Yeah, the mail carrier came up to the garage the other day and said, I have mail for Spud the chipmunk. And I was like,
And it was like this big?
yeah, it was a very tiny little envelope. And I was like, from who? For what? I didn't know that AARP sent mail to Spud the chipmunk, but evidently she's an older chipmunk now. So,
Oh, I feel her.
yeah. Who knew? I had no idea.
Well, she might have to come out and start storing up some nuts for the winter, right? Don't they kind of get their food supply and hide it, or do they hibernate? I don't really understand the life cycle of a
They go into
rodent.
They go into torpor, which is it's not quite hibernation. It's kind of a half hibernation. So they get up during the winter, very little. But they do get up to eat a little bit and then go back to sleep.
Get a nut here and there.
They get up to eat and like we do, like they get up to eat and relieve themselves. And what's actually really cool about their dens is they have separate areas. So they have a separate area that's a bathroom. They have a separate area that's an eating area, and they have a separate area where they sleep.
They're practically human.
Yeah, I'm telling you, they're intelligent. I came out yesterday to the garage. She's sitting on the tire of the tractor, my little lawnmower. She's just chilling. It's Sunday. She's just looking at the sky, doing nothing. And she has a full buffet of food out in front of her. So she's spoiled. She's completely spoiled.
Yes.
My little princess is completely spoiled. So she's sitting there and I said, good morning, little one. I said, you haven't touched anything. She's kind of looking at me like, Sunday. I don't have to do a thing. Right? just enjoying life, right? But she had cherries, blueberries, peanuts, almonds. She had everything in front of her. Cock of the walk, had everything in front of her. So yeah, she could gather whatever she had sunflower seeds as well. She had water.
Just living the best life.
Yeah. She at any time, but during the day, what she'll do is she'll gather and then she'll bring it back to her den and gather and bring it back to her den. And she literally just has to run 10 feet between her dishes and her den and just bring stuff to her den. It's an easy life.
Yeah. Lucky little chipmunk.
Most chipmunks spend all day hunting down whatever they're going to hunt down to run it back to their den. Spud goes 10 feet. It's an easy life.
I think intern Yoko needs to write a picture book about this.
She did write a book for me. Did I ever show it to you?
No, I don't think so.
She wrote me one for Christmas through AI. It's a book about our chipmunks and me and our adventures.
Cute.
Yeah. So I've read about half of it so far. It's very cute.
Oh.
At one point, Spud and I are co-hosting Darkness Radio together. I don't know how that happens. Because all Spud does is cheat, and generally it's for food.
Well, that's all you got to do, right? My job is to sit here and giggle when you say funny things. So I'm like a chipmunk.
I guess a little. You add a little bit more than that to the program.
I hope so.
I don't know what Spud would add to the program. Speaking of, we should probably get this thing underway.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we got stories and stories and stories. And then, by the way, folks, you have added to this week immensely. Boy, I can't tell you how much I appreciate everybody contributing to the program. I want to name names, but by gosh, there's so many names.
Really? That's awesome. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, so keep it coming, folks. Tim@darknessradio.com. Our first story came from a listener. We started off with church leaders arrested in an alleged trafficking ring that solicited $50 million in donations.
Whoa.
Is this what a super church is, Jess? I'm confused. I wish I was making this kind of money. Federal authorities arrested the alleged leaders of a multi-state human trafficking ring that they say lured in trafficking victims under false pretenses and had them solicit donations under the guise that they were working for a religious ministry. 53-year-old David Taylor and 56-year-old Michelle Brannon were arrested on Thursday, August 27th, after a federal grand jury indicted them on 10 counts, including conspiracy to commit forced labor and money laundering conspiracy, according to a Justice Department news release. Taylor was apprehended in Durham, North Carolina, and Brannon in Tampa, Florida. Oh, RICO charges for everybody for Christmas. That's fun. The case is being prosecuted in the Eastern District of Michigan. So they spread it all throughout the U.S. Isn't that fun?
That's the way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Really make sure you can get charges everywhere.
That's right. Taylor and Brannon implored victims to work at call centers and solicit donations for their supposed ministry. According to the indictment, victims were also allegedly forced to work as Taylor's personal servants, which he called his armor bearers. Armor bearers, huh?
Creepy.
That is creepy, isn't it? The call centers they set up in Michigan, Missouri, Florida, and Texas receive millions of dollars in donations each year, which Taylor and Brannon mainly used to purchase luxury properties and vehicles, according to the indictment. Well, at least they got it right? Since 2014, the scheme brought in more than $50 million in crooked donations, according to the prosecutor's news release. The ring not only victimized callers, but it also victimized individuals who donated to the centers in Michigan, Florida, Texas, and Missouri. Attorneys for Taylor and Brannon were unavailable for comment when contacted by the Detroit Free Press. According to the indictment, Taylor and Brannon initiated their scheme in 2014, utilizing an organization known as the Kingdom of God Global Church, formerly referred to as Joshua Media Ministries International. That'd be Jimmy for short. But people didn't get that. I mean, Didn't go, hey, I'm giving money to Jimmy. Huh?
No, people are just nice. They're just trying to do good things.
I guess. Taylor referred to himself as the apostle of the church. There's your first big glowing clue that maybe you shouldn't give money. Well, Brannon was his executive director. Taylor would solicit individuals from across the country to work in his call centers and set goals for them, either collect a certain amount of money in donations from his ministry or make a certain number of phone calls to donors, according to the indictment. The indictment says the people making the calls under the threat of punishment were told by Taylor and Brannon to falsely state that the donated funds would be spent on charitable works, such as providing water wells for impoverished communities overseas or supporting victims of human trafficking, like the people he's trafficking to, make the call.
There's a little irony for you.
Yeah, just a tad bit, just a little bit of irony there. Taylor established the first call center in Taylor, Michigan, before operating call centers in other locations such as Florida, Texas, and Missouri, where there's very little regulation. I mean, it's kind of fun that way, right? The indictment also says that Taylor demanded victims cut off ties with any family members or friends who question him or the church. You're in a cult when, right? When they say, hey, we don't want you to speak to family or friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only us. You can only talk to us.
Yeah, we'd feel better if you just cut off all ties.
And give me all your money.
Right. Maybe you should give up the job at that point.
Also, I'm an apostle or
Yeah.
I'm Jesus. Take your pick.
Yeah.
Either one.
Workers were not allowed to date or to work outside the call center. Boy.
Wow.
When it turns incestuous, maybe that's another clue. Yeah. Employees were required to sleep at the call center. There's another red flag.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Indentured servitude might be a bad part of the job. You might want to think about that. Yeah. The indictment added that if Taylor's workers disobeyed instructions or failed to reach his monetary quotas, he would restrict their sleep, food, or impose physical abuse.
Oh my gosh. Worst job ever.
Yeah. I wonder when you go to unemployment, if you get compensated for any of this. Well, I got the shit beat out of me when I wouldn't stay overnight. The indictment said Taylor believed that if an individual fails to obey his orders and commands, they are defying God and will suffer in hell. I wonder if that's in the benefits package. If you...
Sounds like they're already suffering in hell.
Yeah, pretty much. Taylor and Brannon were each indicted on 8 counts of forced labor, 1 count of conspiracy to commit forced labor, and 1 count of money laundering conspiracy. So, doesn't sound like the punishment fit the crime.
No.
Yeah.
I hope he does some jail time at least, though.
Maybe just a little tiny bit. Tiny.
Yeah, imprison him. It sounds like he was kind of imprisoning those people.
Yeah, he should do at least a decade, maybe. That'd be fun. Get a little jail time under his belt.
A little taste of his own medicine.
Right. It'd be nice if they told him what to do in every movie made, even when to crap. That'd be fun for a while. Just, little swift justice, a little poetic justice on their end. All right, our next story is sent in by one of our listeners. Check this out, Jess. A fentanyl dealer who fell off a building while fleeing the DEA is sentenced.
Well, he survived. That's the bright side of the story.
Might have been using some of that fentanyl at the time he was fleeing the DEA, the DNA, yes. I might be on some fentanyl myself right now. You never know. We go to Atlanta where Omari Nix, a convicted drug trafficker, was sentenced to 12 and a half years in federal prison for trafficking methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, and fentanyl while possessing a loaded AR-style rifle in Atlanta. Hey, if you're going to go big. That's what I say, right? Yeah. He was arrested earlier this year after falling off an apartment building when he was attempting to flee. You only have two options when you're on an apartment building and you're running from the cops. Fall or jump.
Yeah. Or get busted. So you have three options.
Well, okay, there's three.
Give it up. Give up the good fight.
Well, if you're trying to get away, give up is
Yeah.
not an option, right? I suppose climb down. Okay, there's four.
Did you say how many stories the building was?
Oh, we're getting there.
Okay.
He was arrested earlier this year after falling off an apartment building when he was attempting to flee. Nix was sentenced by U.S. District Judge Eleanor L. Ross following his guilty plea to charges of conspiracy to possess controlled substances with intent to distribute and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Nix is a serial drug trafficker who posed a serious threat to public safety by dealing fentanyl and other dangerous drugs while armed with a highly loaded, high-powered rifle that he was not allowed to have. Like he would have been allowed at some point. That, according to U.S. Attorney Theodore S. Hertzberg, who has a way with words. It doesn't say how many stories he fell. I have a feeling it was, it might have maybe a story or two.
Yeah. It couldn't have been like a high rise, obviously, but
No.
still, I feel like if I fell off my roof, I would probably die. Like I just wouldn't get that lucky. That'd be, and this guy is like doing all the wrong things. And he just, probably bounced up and was like, I think too, when you're on something, your body is more limp. I think I've heard this about like drunk driver accidents. Like, why does a drunk driver never die? And it's just because their body is less inclined to tense up or something. And so they're not as injured typically.
True. When you're wired on the meth, you're pretty invincible.
Yeah.
When you're riding the snake, you're pretty, yeah. So my guess is he was probably running around like a chicken with his head cut off, and he just off the roof, and he was super good at that point. Yeah. So I think he was all right. It's like when little kids do the damnedest thing, they land on their head and you think they broke their neck and they're like, I'm fine. And you're like, oh, you get that shock of a lifetime.
Yeah.
It's like little kids and drug dealers. They're the same thing. Yeah. You don't have to worry about them. They'll be all right.
They'll be all right.
Yeah, they'll be fine. Speaking of, boy, we're talking about record busts this week. We're talking about somebody learned it was my birthday last week and decided they were going to try and import as many drugs as possible, not knowing that those days were in college.
Wow. What a birthday gift.
Yeah, I know, right? I was like, no, kids, it's okay. Those days are long gone. And they were like, oh, we can turn around. I'm like, it's too late. You're going to get busted. Well, they did. 38 tons of narcotics worth $470 million were seized in a historic bust off the South Florida coast.
Dang.
Yeah, it's a little bit too much for this kid.
Quite a birthday gift they were bringing to you.
No, just saying. That would have got the whole country high for about, I don't know, a couple of months. The U.S. Coast Guard on Monday offloaded a record-setting 38 tons of cocaine and marijuana. Enough to make Tony Montana high for a week. Valued at around $470 million at Port Everglades in Fort Lauderdale, that the agency said it intercepted during multiple patrols in the Eastern Pacific Ocean and the Caribbean Sea over the summer. Get this, Jess, 61,740 pounds of cocaine and 14,400 pounds of marijuana was the largest narcotics offload in the Coast Guard's history.
I can't even conceptualize that amount of drugs. That's so much.
I can't either. To put this into perspective, the potential 23 million lethal doses of cocaine seized by the U.S. Coast Guard and our partners are enough to fatally overdose the entire population of the state of Florida. Oh, yeah?
Oh.
Try it. That's what I say. Try it. If you can kill Florida, I got $1. It's all yours.
What would we talk about, Tim? We need Florida Man. He's funny.
Are you kidding? There's more. They're like cockroaches. They'll spring up.
We'll just start moving up the coastline.
Yep. They say underscoring the immense threat posed by transnational drug trafficking to our nation, Rear Admiral Adam Chamey, Coast Guard Southeast District Commander, said in a statement. Do you think guys that take the title of Rear Admiral say it out loud in mixed company?
The Rear Admiral.
Just asking. The Coast Guard wasn't alone in the Joint Task Force mission. Also taking part in the patrols were the U.S. Navy, U.S. Customs and Border Protection's air and marine operations and a ship from the Royal Netherlands Navy. Somebody had to help with this operation because that's a lot of weight.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But most of the 19 interdictions at sea, it was the Navy, there's a lot of interdictions at sea, you know what I mean, were done by sailors from the Coast Guard cutter Hamilton, the ship that was brought the contraband back home Monday. Team Hamilton, with our partners, worked incredibly hard the last several months to safeguard the American public from the dangers of illicit narcotics entering the United States, said Captain John B. McWhite, commanding officer of the 418-foot ship. The crew interdicted, I can't say that word, it makes me giggle. 11 go-fast vessels detained 34 suspected drug traffickers and seized a record 47,000 pounds of cocaine. Wow. The commitment and sacrifice of our deployed service members and their families who forego time together for the protection of our nation are to be celebrated. I agree. That's work right there.
Yeah.
By the way, did you know that the Navy has a USS Minneapolis St. Paul?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's one of their ships?
That's one of their ships.
Huh.
On August 18th, the USS Minneapolis St. Paul's boarding team raided a speedboat about 130 miles south of Jamaica. The boat's cargo was 6,425 pounds of cocaine.
Jeez.
A
Where is this
speedboat.
all coming from?
How did that boat not sink?
Is there room for anything other than drugs? Just the driver and a bunch of drugs.
Just
That's
had
all
to
there's
be
room for.
Just had to be a guy with a Johnson motor sitting on like a ton of bags of coke.
Yeah.
You know?
You just see him like mounded up and he's sitting on top of it, just like,
Yeah. Like, come and give me fishy. You know?
oh gosh.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Good job, guys. Holy cow.
Yes, thank you for intercepting all of those drugs.
Speaking of interceptions, this guy, I think, thinks he's the quarterback for the Vikings or for the Miami Dolphins. Because there's a man accused of regularly throwing glass bottles from a Miami high-rise. And he's facing deadly missile charges.
Yeah, you could kill someone.
Well, if he got aim, yeah.
Yeah. If you hit him on top of the head and from a high rise, I think just the speed and that could do it alone, but then shattered glass.
Does this guy look like he could hit anybody, though? He kind of looks like a dork.
Yeah. I mean,
A double vision dork.
he looks unhappy.
He does, doesn't he? He kind of looks like that's his entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird.
51-year-old man in Miami's Brickell neighborhood faces 48 felony charges, Jess, on Thursday after police. Yeah, I know. He's done it more than once. Yeah. Just hanging out. You didn't just hang out the window and throw one and see what happened.
Just cleaning out his recycling bin. He didn't want to have to walk down and dump it.
He pushed it up to the edge of the balcony and just started whipping them off.
Yeah, one at a time.
Yeah. Look at it's like, what was that bit on Late Night with David Letterman where they would drop stuff off the tower?
Oh gosh.
You remember that? Yeah, that's pretty much what he was doing. A 51-year-old man in Miami's Brickell neighborhood faced 48 felony charges on Thursday after police officers arrested him for regularly throwing glass beer bottles from a 41st floor balcony. 41 stories.
Imagine the speed that that little glass missile was traveling at.
Can you imagine the debris spray when it hits the sidewalk?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm kind of intrigued. I kind of want to see it just once to see how far out it goes. Miami Police Department officers arrested Ivan Kadirno, a club at Brickell Bay tenant, on Wednesday after he allegedly threw so many bottles that he prompted investigations by both the building's management company and a detective. So the management company said, "Nah, go after him. We're done." The bottles could have easily struck pedestrians, residents, and vehicles below, causing serious bodily injury or death, a detective wrote. According to the arrest report in Kadirno's case, Miami-Dade prosecutors filed a felony case against Kadirno, who was born in Spain. It says, here's how badly the sentence is written, Jess. It says, Miami-Dade prosecutors filed a felony case against Kadirno, who was born in Spain on Thursday. I doubt he was born on Thursday.
That's poorly written.
Mm-hmm. Because he's 51 years old, I doubt he was born on this last Thursday. Just saying. He faced 24 counts of shooting or throwing a deadly missile and 24 counts of criminal mischief of $1,000 or more. The building's management company blamed Kadirno for about $140,000 in property damage.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and other expenses, including the purchase and installation of a net and surveillance cameras before they could stop him. So they must have had to put up a net around the building so that he wouldn't kill anybody.
Yeah. So this was just probably happening over time. Like he just would I drank a beer, I'm tossing it out the window. Like, a week later he does it again. Or a day later, probably. And he's probably drinking more than one beer a day,
Yeah,
I had to guess.
He probably is. He's probably doing a sixer at one time. But then they were like, you know what? We can't have you killing our residents. So we have to put up like a giant net like they would put up like between NFL goalposts to catch your.
And it sounds like they were trying to figure out like who was doing it too. Like,
yeah,
you had a whole big apartment complex. Like, where is this coming from?
So do you think they had to do the entire building then?
Well, I mean, at least the one side probably that kept happening on the one side.
Yeah. And so then it had to be like an awning. It had to be around the first floor, right?
Yeah.
So that it would catch. Oh, that had to be horrible.
Can you imagine if you're walking under that and one of them like hits the net and it like doesn't hit you, but you like see it?
You see that thing go thwack right in front of you? Oh my God.
Gosh.
I'd piss myself right there. That would be, ugh. The building's management company blamed Kadirno for about $140,000 in property damage and other expenses, including the purchase and installation of that net and surveillance cameras before they could stop him. A detective reviewed the management company's surveillance video and identified crimes from August 1st to August 19th. The correctional deputies booked Kadirno early Thursday morning at the Turner Guilford Correctional Center. He appeared in court and a judge set his bond at how much, Jess, and ordered him to stay away from the building.
I'm not good at this. Although I'm getting better.
You're getting better?
I'm getting better. Let's say $5,000.
Oh, get a little high with it.
Is it higher?
Yeah.
Mm.
So Miami,
15,000.
a little higher. We'll give you one more.
Okay, 30,000.
$62,500.
What?
Yeah.
I feel like people have done worse things and had way less bonds set for them, especially in Florida.
Miami, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it sounds like it's a nice apartment building. So they probably are sending a message.
Yes. Don't do this.
Yeah. Not in our city, not at our high rise. and not your empties on our people. That's for sure.
I think that's why that this game is so hard for me because I feel like we had a lady who like really badly neglected her children to the point that they could have died, and she had like a $500 bond or
Yeah.
something, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, that was in trashy trailer park, Florida, I think. Yeah. Yeah. And they were
It
like,
just depends on the part of Florida you're in, I guess.
yeah. They're like, yeah, we leave our
Just
kids
another
alone.
day.
Yeah. Yeah. We leave our kids alone on the regular. Not a big deal. Speaking of trashy trailer park places in the world, are you ready for Kids Fight Club?
Yes.
Yes, please. Where do we get the video?
It sounds quite dysfunctional and funny. Let's go.
All right. 4 women are accused of encouraging a fight between Alabama middle school students. Let me ask you, Jess, when you were a teacher, did you ever have Fight Club at your school?
I mean, we definitely had fights, and I was like really good at breaking them up. Like when I left my one job, the principal was like, "You can't leave. You're the one who breaks up all the fights."
Well, but did you encourage them? That's the thing. Did
No.
you secretly just kind of poke the bear and let them go?
No, never. I would throw myself in the middle of them and nobody would swing at each other because they loved me and they didn't want to hurt me.
Oh,
I was like, oh, that's probably a bad idea, but that was usually how I did it.
look at you. You peacemonger, you. Well, not in Alabama. Nuh-uh. 4 women were arrested in Alabama after police said they may have encouraged a fight between middle school students. May have. If there's 4 of them in a circle, they're probably they probably got
Go,
right?
go.
They're taking action. They're like, all right, I got 5 on the wiry one. 27-year-old Jasmine Heidelberg, 30-year-old Tiara Williams, 31-year-old Khadijah Weaver, and 32-year-old Diana Young were charged with contributing to the delinquency of a minor on Thursday, August 28th. The Birmingham Police Department said in a Facebook post. I'm glad it came out on Facebook. Williams has additionally been charged with child endangerment. The women were arrested after police responded to a neighborhood after receiving a report about a fight involving students from Hayes Middle School. Once at the scene, officers learned that several adults may have encouraged the fight between students, according to police. May have, you say. Once arrested, all 4 women were taken to the Birmingham City Jail. Jail records do not show the women as current inmates, and it is unclear if either of them has retained an attorney for the case. USA Today contacted the Birmingham Police Department and the Birmingham City School System on Saturday, August 30th, but has not received a response. You want to know why? Because they got free. It's not a crime for Kids Fight Club. Plus, the police probably had action on it.
It's not illegal, it's just frowned upon.
That's right. In a statement shared on Facebook, Birmingham Police Chief Michael Pickett said this kind of parental neglect is a disgrace to our community and to society as a whole. As adults, we have a responsibility to serve as role models, providing the proper guidance, support, and good example of our children to follow. Pickett's statement continued, while BPD is committed to helping parents who are struggling with troubled children, let me be clear. We have zero tolerance for parents who encourage, promote, or facilitate violence among our youth. These swift arrests were made to send a clear message to the few parents who choose to act irresponsibly. And by the way, kids, always keep your left up and follow with the right. And you want to make sure, you don't get hit on the right side of the head, because that's the side of the head that keeps your vision when you're fighting. So, yeah.
Solid advice there, Timmy.
A tip from the Birmingham Police Department. Just, from their boxing league. Because you want to keep the kids safe while they're fighting. Kids Fight Club at school.
Oh, my.
If you thought that's bad, Jess, things are going. School's back in session and shit's going down. Let me say.
Oh, no.
I love it when school starts.
Is this going to make me want to homeschool my final child?
Yes, it is. You should just bring her in now. Bring her in now. Start homeschooling right now. The next one has to do with a mother who plans to file a lawsuit and press charges after the teacher body slammed a West Side High School student while playing musical chairs. I know I didn't get that.
Musical chairs gone wrong.
Well, hey, sometimes full contact musical chairs is needed. You know,
Can you imagine? That's crazy.
sometimes when you hear "Pop Goes the Weasel," your veins just come out of your neck.
You're like body slamming children.
Yeah. The school employee was reassigned to duties without student contact while the district investigates. Of course, we're going to Jacksonville, Florida, because people in Florida can't control themselves around children, evidently.
I guess not.
The mother of a West Side High School student who was body slammed by a teacher while playing musical chairs said she plans to file a lawsuit and press charges against those involved. I'm sorry, I can't keep a straight face during this. Joanna Milliken told News4Jax, she has retained legal counsel after her daughter, 16-year-old Nyla Milliken, suffered a concussion and bruised ribs when a male teacher slammed her to the ground during the last round of musical chairs at a pep rally on Friday. How serious are you taking life?
That's insane.
When you decide, I need to take this poor 16-year-old and layeth the smacketh down on her candy ass in front of her peers.
Yeah, the whole school.
Can she ever go back to school again?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's traumatic. First of all, it's a male teacher body slamming a female student. That's first part crazy.
Mr. Asshole put me in the rock bottom when I was going for the last chair. I can't ever go back to school again.
Oh.
How do you go back?
I don't know. That's embarrassing. I guess she might be homeschooled now.
I think she will be, yeah. Attorney Gary Englander with Englander Peebles, which sounds like a injury firm somewhere in Jacksonville, said we have been retained by both Nyla and mother Joanna to conduct an investigation into what occurred at the school. Let me recreate it for you. Get away, chair. From the video, this incident should not have occurred, they said. The teacher should never have put his hands on her and taken her to the ground. She's been injured. We're going to continue to work with the family and we'll take appropriate actions. This, again, according to Gary Englander with Englander Peebles. My guess is there's two attorneys at Englander Peebles, Gary Englander and singer Peebles, who sang Mercedes Boy. Oh, I'm sorry. That was Pebbles, not Peebles.
Close enough.
Close enough. Joanna Milliken posted a video on TikTok showing the moment when her, there's a video. There's a video. There's a video.
Oh my gosh.
It's in this article. Should I put this article in the description of the program?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to put the video in the description of this program so you can watch the video of the teacher laying the smacketh down to show you why you should probably homeschool your children, especially if you're in Florida. Joanna Milliken went and posted the video on TikTok showing the moment when her daughter was thrown to the ground by the man who News4Jax is now not identifying, because he has not been charged with a crime. That's right. In Florida, evidently, it's not a crime to throw your child to the ground while playing musical chairs. After that, two people can be seen helping the student stand up while the man celebrated that he had won the game. Jess, I'm going to show you this video.
Oh my gosh.
He was a little too close to me from the beginning, from behind. So when the music stopped, you know how somebody pulls the chair and runs? I did that, sat down, and then he ran after me, picked me up, and then he slammed me. Nyla Milliken told Newsjax 4 on Monday. The mother said she wants accountability. I want justice to be done because he ain't no teacher should be that close to student they don't know, Joanna Milliken said.
Wait, that was her quote?
That's her quote.
Stop. You didn't just dumb that up.
I'm going to repeat it again. I want justice to be done because ain't no teacher should be that close to a student they didn't know. Okay, I did dumb it up a little, but it's still kind of dumb. Nobody should even have to come or even have to deal with their kid going to the emergency room just for a teacher tackling their student over on the ground over musical chairs.
True.
All right, I'm going to show you this.
Okay, let's see. And that guy was just like clueless. He's just like, hell yeah, I won.
Is it starting? Can you see
It's
it?
buffering. Okay. Oh, here it goes. Here goes the video. Oh, my.
Give me some play-by-play. Use
He
your words.
did. He picked her up and body slammed her. And then he was like,
Was he like, yeah?
yeah, he threw the chair then and started running. Like,
Yeah.
look at me.
Yeah.
Okay, it's playing again. That's crazy.
All right, we're gonna post the article so you can see. Oh yeah, he's gonna. Let me describe for you. Let me give you some play-by-play action on the True Crime Tuesday. So, essentially, oh no, see, I'm getting in this courtroom. Why do I get the people's court stuff now? What's going on with that? Oh, for the love of God! All right, whatever, fine. They don't want to show me the video. They showed me the video though, Jess.
People will just have to watch it. It's worth watching. It's worth the click.
There you go. News 4 Jax reached out to Duval County Public Schools and Westside High School to ask about the video and if any action was taken. The district responded with a statement saying in part that the employee has been reassigned to duties without student contact while the district's Office of Professional Standards investigates. What kind of investigation do you really need?
I mean, I think he was just a super I mean, the problem is it doesn't look like there was like intent to be unusually cruel or anything. He just was really competitive.
That's a little too competitive.
I mean, it's over the top, but I don't know. That's a strange situation.
That's more than strange. That's bizarre.
This is why they don't let us play games in schools anymore. We can't play dodgeball. We can't do any of the fun stuff because people take it too far.
They do. I mean, but it's a 16-year-old girl. Why do you feel you need to get your testosterone up and flex over a 16-year-old girl? And
yeah, it makes me wonder, like, what does this guy teach? Like, and is he like a coach? Like, he's so competitive.
Probably underwater basket weaving at Jacksonville High School. All right, our next story. Be careful, by the way, of where you go to see a dentist. Again, we're staying in Florida for this one. A fake dentist used nail glue to attach to veneers, causing the patient to undergo emergency dental care, according to cops in this story. This was sent to me by more than one of our listeners this week.
Oh my gosh. If it smells like you're in the nail salon, get up and run.
Yeah, you probably should leave. A Florida woman is accused of performing dentistry without a license and inserting veneers on patients who subsequently had to have emergency surgery. Ow. When your name is Emily, spelled Emely, you probably should run too.
Yeah, that's the first red flag.
Yeah. 35-year-old Emily Martinez faces at least 4 counts of practicing dentistry without a license in 2 counties in the Sunshine State, along with a scheme to defraud charge. Martinez allegedly advertised on social media under the name, what name is that? ITSTHE. Is that Itiths? Veneer lady?
Yeah. That's hard to say.
Yikes. To insert the veneers for a dramatically cheaper price than the going rate. That's the other thing you got to look out for when, when they'll do veneers for $29.99. Maybe you should stay away from that too. According to a probable cause affidavit reviewed by Law and Crime, That was the other thing that went on. In one case, Martinez incorrectly put in the veneers, causing the patient pain and injury. Oh God. Can you just imagine? She just throws those things in there like she put an oil filter in wrong.
Oh, and your gums are really sensitive.
Yeah.
That would hurt.
A real dentist had to perform emergency dental surgery to save her natural teeth and discovered Martinez allegedly used nail glue to insert the veneers.
I wonder what nail glue does to the enamel of your natural teeth. That cannot be good.
Probably rips it right off.
Yeah.
Yeah. The victim told cops Martinez presented herself as a licensed professional, but she later learned the suspect had no certificate. In another case, a victim suffered ongoing consequences from Martinez's shoddy work, cops said. Martinez allegedly charged the woman $1,600, but the veneers kept falling out. The defendant tried putting them back on in 2 different occasions, but the same problems persisted, according to the affidavit. Martinez allegedly refused to refund the victim and then ceased contact. As a result, cops arrested Martinez on a scheme to defraud charge. Cops say Martinez was operating out of a strip mall in Pinellas Park. Pinellas Park Police Sergeant Windy Vodder, which looks like windy water when you look at it real quick, told local Fox affiliate WTVT that the victims have spent thousands of dollars trying to repair their teeth. She's not licensed to put in veneers, said Vodder. Windy Vodder. sounds like a vampire trying to describe the lakes in Florida.
She's making lots of waves.
I love to sail on the windy water. It's a bad joke. She's not licensed to put in veneers, said Vodder. She has no schooling to do veneers. And in the state of Florida, obviously, you have to be licensed to do any kind of work like that. Martinez also is facing a separate charge of practicing dentistry without a license in Hillsborough County. Unlicensed veneer techs have become an issue nationwide and have become such an issue that the American Dental Association issued a statement in May of 2024 warning that the procedure, if not done properly, could cause irreversible harm. Risks that may be associated with services from unlicensed individuals include potential infection from adhesives and curing devices that are not properly sterilized, or from placing veneers over unhealthy teeth or untreated cavities, nerve damage from improperly trimming or filing the teeth, and potential choking hazard during placement. Martinez, by the way, remains at the Pinellas County Jail as of Monday morning on a bond of about $40,000.
Yikes.
Yeah, that's not cheap. That's for sure. All right, time now for Not Safe for Work. So here's the deal. Even though I've let a few swears go because I've been shocked myself, especially by Kids Fight Club, we're going to have you escort the kids out of the room because we got bigger fish to fry. And we're going to have you get the boss out of the room because we got bigger fish to fry. We're going to do so in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All the kids have heard about Lil Nas X in the last week or so. But if you haven't, it's quite the interesting story. Lil Nas X pled not guilty to assaulting police officers in Los Angeles over the last day or two. If you haven't heard by now, the rapper was seen walking down Ventura Boulevard in his undies and cowboy boots last week. That's right. He took a little stroll wearing barely anything. And as a matter of fact, he got rid of the undies at one point.
It's his birthday suit and cowboy boots.
Well, and the undies ended up on eBay, Jess.
Really? How much did those go for?
I don't know. I think you might be able to still find them. I think what happens is eBay takes them off of the site because they're improper.
Oh.
Especially if they're from a celebrity. So, Lil Nas X was charged with 4 felonies on Monday after he allegedly charged the police when they confronted him for walking down a Los Angeles street nearly naked. The rapper, whose real name is Montero Lamar Hill, pleaded not guilty at an arraignment later Monday. He was charged with 3 counts of battery with injury on a police officer and 1 felony count of resisting an executive officer. The judge set Lil Nas X's bail at $75,000. That's chump change to Lil Nas X.
Wow.
Yeah. The rapper is also required to attend Narcotics Anonymous meetings. Although, from watching TMZ, they said they didn't think he had anything in his system at the time, or at least they're not saying he did.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, they're being mum about it. They're not saying that he was polluted at the time.
I mean, I hate to say I hope he did, because if he didn't, that's like even crazier.
Well, they're alluding to the fact that maybe he had a bit of a mental breakdown.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's possible. That's too bad.
Yeah. The charges against the Old Town Road hitmaker come 4 days after he was reportedly arrested and briefly hospitalized for a possible overdose. The Los Angeles Police Department responded to reports of a naked man walking along Ventura Boulevard in Studio City around 6 a.m. local time on Thursday. Although, is that unusual, really, on Ventura Boulevard? I mean, let's really ask that question. TMZ released a video of Lil Nas X roaming the same street early that morning. The video shows him in his underwear and cowboy boots as he incoherently speaks to the person recording the video on their phone. A man accused of assault was reportedly nude in the street and went on to batter an officer, so he was booked for battery on a peace officer, spokesperson for the LAPD told People. Upon arrival, the suspect charged officers and was taken into custody. He was transported to a local hospital for a possible overdose and placed under arrest for battery on a police officer. That according to the LAPD. According to multiple outlets, including the Associated Press, police first took him to a hospital suspecting that he may be suffering from a drug overdose, but he was later transferred to jail in Van Nuys, where he was booked on the misdemeanor charge of obstructing an officer, which must mean that they didn't, at that point, think he had a drug in him.
Interesting.
Yeah. A representative for Lil Nas X did not immediately respond to Yahoo's request for comment. Prior to the incident, the 26-year-old male made a slew of Instagram posts. On Wednesday, the rapper posted mirror selfies as well as photos of piles of his belongings and his art. Some of the posts featured music, which appeared to be unreleased Lil Nas X songs. Interesting stuff. I think he's having a bit of a breakdown, to be honest with you.
Yeah, which is so sad. I mean, I can't imagine the pressure, that some of these famous people just have to deal with just by way of not being able to be a normal person.
Yeah. 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 Eventually, what's interesting is when you, and the name is escaping me now. Well, Martin Lawrence even said it too. They'll make you look crazy. They'll try to make you look crazy. And there's other there's comedians that'll say it. Dave Chappelle said it. They'll try to make you look crazy at one point. When really you're trying to take a break,
Right.
So yeah, it's interesting what they'll do with, famous people will, they'll tell you, they try to set you up, and it's a weird culture. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Our next story is a bizarre one at that. Again, we're back in Florida. And we're going to talk about it. I know we keep coming back to teachers today, Jess, and I hate to make you uncomfortable about this. Where is the line? This is the question of today. Where is the line between flirtation and sexual assault when it comes to a teacher? There's an interesting story out of Martin County in Florida, where a Martin County Sheriff's Office used an unusual law to arrest a local teacher. We go to Port St. Lucie in Florida, where a former teacher in Port St. Lucie is accused of sending inappropriate messages to a student. Investigators with the Martin County Sheriff's Office said the messages were never sexual, and the relationship between the student and teacher was never physical. Yet they arrested him.
Interesting.
The sheriff's office said it was still a crime, however. According to the police report, Adam LeClaire was a math teacher at Tradition Preparatory High School and started messaging a 16-year-old student in March. Major Ruben Romero of the Martin County Sheriff's Office said they were definitely romantic. He seemed to be pursuing her in a romantic way, believing he was in some sort of relationship with the student. That's still creepy.
Super creepy.
Right. Romero said some of the messages were, I've never connected with anybody like I connected with you, and described the girl as the woman who taught me that I am not alone in this world like I always believed I was.
Oh, well, back up, buddy. She's not quite a woman.
Yeah, she's not a woman. She's a girl.
He's a kid.
Yeah. The girl told investigators she never wanted to receive messages like that from LeClaire. Yeah, she never wanted that from you. She was made to feel very uncomfortable when a teacher approached her in a romantic way, Romero said. The girl showed the messages to her parents, who then called the sheriff's office.
I'd be so mad.
Oh, if I were that dad,
Oh,
I'd,
oh,
I'd shoot that guy's dick off.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Even though the school is in Port St. Lucie, the girl lives and received the messages in Martin County, which is why law enforcement there handled the case. Romero said detectives believe that even though the messages were never sexual, they were still criminal. So they used a portion of a law that the sheriff's office had never used before, which says a person in a position of authority like a teacher cannot send romantic messages to a student. It doesn't have to get as bad as something so sexual that it gets so far gone that this person becomes an actual victim, Romero said. Tradition Preparatory High School released a statement about LeClaire's arrest, saying he has not been employed at the school since August 22nd. We are so proud of the culture and environment we've developed at our school, which is why it's so disheartening to hear the allegations and subsequent arrest of a former teacher. We are not at liberty to discuss personnel issues, the statement said. According to the police report, LeClaire admitted to sending the messages, but does not believe they're inappropriate. Huh?
What planet is he living on?
He told investigators he understands how the messages look, but he was only trying to be supportive of the student.
No, he was hoping for a different reaction.
Yeah. By the way, LeClaire's bond is set at $50,000 and he remains in the Martin County Jail. Where
Good.
he should be. Yeah.
Yes, he should stay there.
Yeah. That is just bizarre. All right.
Yikes.
Speaking of bizarre, there's a couple of different stories. I only picked one of them this week, but there's a couple of different stories of guys putting cameras in bathrooms.
Oh, why?
I don't know. I don't get that.
There's nothing sexy about watching someone go to the bathroom.
No, there's not. No, not at all. I only picked one of them because it was from one of our listeners, but a man is accused. This guy doesn't he look like Harry Potter?
Oh, he does. Yeah,
Doesn't he?
I can see it.
Harry Potter wants to watch you tinkle, I guess is the name of this little outing. I don't know, but he's in Michigan. So Harry Potter in Michigan wants to watch you tinkle at the Bishop Airport. But he was putting a camera in the aviation school bathroom there. New charges have been filed this month against Brendan McConaughey, I believe, who is accused of secretly recording women in the bathroom at a Genesee County Aviation School. Investigators revealed that the recordings were made in the bathroom of Crosswinds Aviation. How ironic, Crosswinds in the bathroom. At Bishop International Airport, where 29-year-old McConaughey allegedly set up a camera in the air vent in 2021. Genesee County Prosecutor David Layton explained how the recordings came to light. He sold a drone to a man in Florida. The man, of course, the man in Florida who bought the drone took the SIM card out of the drone, and then he determined something suspicious here and went to police, Layton said. The Michigan State Police investigation identified 4 victims who were all unaware that they had been recorded. The youngest, Jess, was 17 years old.
Oh, come on.
McConaughey was initially charged with 10 felony counts, including 2 counts of aggravated child sexually abusive activity. This month, Layton's office added 2 more charges related to a 4th victim. A Goodrich woman, now 22, it says expressed her feelings in a statement, but there's more to that story. But essentially, McConaughey's attorney did not respond to requests for comment. McConaughey's next court date is scheduled for September 15th. So, but yeah, there's two stories of, I didn't get to the second story this week. I figured it's
One
over.
was enough.
One's enough. There's times we hear about people getting handsy on airplanes, but believe it or not, someone got handsy on a train this week.
Ooh.
Right? Throw mama from the train. Evidently, we're throwing a guy from the train this week.
Oh no.
Yeah. For this one, we're going to a place called Rhinecliff, where a handyman was arrested following an incident aboard a train. A 49-year-old Columbia County man was arrested Friday on a misdemeanor charge of forcible touching. Isn't that an NFL penalty, forcible touching? Following a complaint from a woman aboard an Amtrak train. I thought Amtrak trains were like, they were patrolled pretty well. Like, isn't there somebody always walking up and down the aisles?
We've never been on one, but in my
No?
mind, that sounds right.
You've never been on an Amtrak train?
I've not.
We used to, for school, we used to always go to I shouldn't say we always went, but there was the opportunity to go on an Amtrak train from here to Duluth.
Oh, that would make the trip really fast.
Yeah. State troopers working with MTA police responded to the Rhinecliff train station just after noon on August 29th to investigate the report of the incident that occurred aboard an incoming train. According to police, a woman said she was on the train seated in the same row with a man she didn't know, and he forcibly touched her without her consent. The woman was able to escape the man's clutches and waited for police to arrive at the train station. After police investigated the incident, a suspect was identified and taken into custody. 49-year-old Antonio Perez of Valadi in Columbia County was arrested on the misdemeanor charge of forcible touching, arraigned in Red Hook Justice Court, and remanded to the Dutchess County Jail on $1,000 cash bond, $2,000 bond, or $10,000 partially secured bond. A full stay-away order of protection was issued on behalf of the victim. That seems like very low bond.
Yeah, it is very low. I don't know what forcible touching involves though. I mean, like, was it sexual touching? It doesn't sound like it because I think that would be a different charge. So did he just like grab her arm?
That might, I think you're right, Jess. It might just, forcible touching might just be like
Yeah,
grabbing a body part, but not a sexual.
because if he grabbed a part that was considered sexual, there would be a sexual charge on top of all of that.
Right. No, you're right. You're right. I don't know. That's a good question. Good question. Speaking of just that, our next story has to do with a customer that tried to kidnap a bikini barista. Have you ever been to one of these bikini coffee shops?
No, I haven't.
I never have either, but I'm
I
intrigued.
feel like it would just make me not want to drink my calories.
Really? Yeah.
I already think that every time my girls want to go to Starbucks, I'm like, well, I'll get you Starbucks, but I don't need to drink a 1,200 calorie drink.
I like a white chocolate mocha every once in a while, especially when
Yeah.
I'm outside. Yeah. Yeah. Or a hot
I
chocolate.
mean, they're delicious. They're all delicious, but if you look at the calories on them, and I kind of am mindful of like my calories, and you look at them, you're like, that's like half my calories for the day. Now I can't eat.
Oh, you got to live a little, Jess.
Yeah, I guess.
Got to
But I
live.
feel like if I went to a bikini clad barista, I'd be like, oh, now I just feel bad about myself. I'm gonna go work out
No, come on.
and drink lemon juice and water for a week.
I think you're way overthinking it.
I do that. Yeah, it's a curse.
It says here your takeout order from one of those espresso or sexpresso. I'm sorry,
Oh, Sexpresso.
sexpresso coffee stands. Well, I didn't know it had a name.
Wow.
It does not include a complimentary bikini clad barista, so you can't take them with you, evidently. A 19-year-old Washington state man is facing a kidnapping charge for allegedly trying to pull a female employee out of the drive-through window of the Ladybug Bikini espresso stand and into his vehicle. Yeah, you can't play caveman in those deals. You just can't knock them over the head and put them in your car. Investigators allege that Ezekiel Guerrero drove to the 24-hour coffee shop earlier this month and placed a 2:15 a.m. drink order with the female worker on duty. The business is located in Lakewood, which is a suburb of Tacoma, where Guerrero resides. While preparing Guerrero's drink, the victim said she exchanged small talk with the customer, who was wearing a blue hat, an LA Dodgers jersey, and designer jeans. The woman said she handed Guerrero a clipboard with a receipt that needed his signature. When Guerrero subsequently partially extended the clipboard back to the barista, she reached out to accept it. This is when Guerrero allegedly grabbed the victim by the arm and attempted to pull her through the window toward his car. Okay, that's just scary. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. The woman told cops she braced her legs against a counter, which kept her from being pulled through the drive-through window. The victim was able to shut the window while the patron fled the area. When police interviewed the barista, she was frantic and appeared genuinely frightened and had red marks on her wrist, inner bicep, and shoulder. The incident was recorded by a security camera. Footage, cops reported, showed Guerrero violently seizes the barista by the arm and that the woman eventually breaks his grasp after tugging back and forth as she slid the window shut. Guerrero, who paid for his drink with a MasterCard in his name, was eventually tracked down by police and arrested on Monday. He reportedly confessed to detectives, saying that he had been drinking alcohol and smoking marijuana before the incident and was, quote unquote, fucked up.
I guess.
I don't think that's the weed that makes you that way.
I think the weed makes you just kind of chill.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and well, clearly not thinking because you pay for your drink with your freaking credit card and then try to kidnap someone. Like,
Yeah.
hi, it's me. Come get me.
Yeah. He's
But
not.
good for that girl for fighting back. I mean, honestly, I think if anyone ever tries to abduct a woman, personally, I would rather fight to the death wherever I'm at
Yeah.
than be taken to the second place because I think you're going to die anyway.
Yeah. Chances are you're not going to survive. If someone's trying
Yeah.
to place, you're not going to survive. Claiming that he did not intend to harm the victim, Guerrero said that he had been feeling sad, angry, and isolated due to his recent relationship problems with his former girlfriend, and that he went to the Ladybug. He went to the Ladybug stand to see a pretty girl. Oh, come on. You can go to a strip club to see a pretty girl.
I mean, see the pretty girl, get your coffee, and get the frick out of there.
Right.
Move along.
I mean, come on. Investigators reported that Guerrero recognized that his behavior was impulsive, denied having any anger or hatred toward women in general, and maintained that his conduct did not reflect his character. Charged with attempted kidnapping in the first degree, a felony, Guerrero, who has no prior criminal record and works as a forklift driver at a Seattle bakery, was booked into the Pierce County Jail, from which he was later released on his own recognizance. A judge has ordered him to have no contact with the victim and any Ladybug outlets. Yeah, he's on a
That's not a very good excuse, though, really. I was sad.
Oh, I was sad and I wanted to see a pretty lady. Well, take a couple of bucks, take your little MasterCard, go down to the Deja Vu, take some money out off the card on an ATM and go have a fun time.
Guess what? You don't get to grab them either, or the bouncer is going to break your wrist. Like,
Yeah.
you don't get to grab girls, buddy. I don't care how sad you are.
Yeah, that's for sure. Oh, here's the other camera story I had. Okay. Let me ask you, if this guy is looking at you through a camera or otherwise, are you feeling safe?
He looks a little angry, so no.
Yeah, he does look angry, doesn't he? Let's go to Orange County, Florida. A lot of Florida stories today.
Really? Thanks for bringing it, Florida.
Yeah, thanks for bringing the creepy today, Florida. The man accused of recording up a woman's skirt at the UCF library says it's his job.
Oh, what job is that? Did you get a degree for that?
It's my job. No, you're working it like it's your job, but it's not your job. You're not getting paid for it. Yansu William Lee faces voyeurism and tampering charges as a result. Man accused of recording up a woman's skirt at the University of Central Florida's library reportedly told a witness that it was his job to do so. Yeah. What do I do for the university? Oh, I record up women's skirts. It's for the biology department.
Work study.
It's work study. I get 6 hours a week. I do it for a professor. Yeah. It's, I don't know if you ever heard of it before. It's the clitoral studies department here at UCF. Yeah. We're part of the biology department. Yansu William Lee, who's all of 23 years old, faces charges of video voyeurism, and I didn't know that was a charge, and tampering with evidence, according to records. According to a arrest affidavit, he was booked on Thursday after being caught by a woman who noticed his cell phone pointing directly up her skirt while she studied at a desk on the 5th floor of UCF's library. I would think you'd notice that. That's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
The victim demanded to see Lee's phone, leading to Lee attempting to hide his most recent recordings, but to no avail, according to the affidavit. A witness to the event told investigators that Lee said taking such videos was his job, going on to tell the witness there are entire communities for it and that he sells photographs and videos of women. The witness said that Lee then deleted the video, according to the affidavit. A UCF spokesperson confirmed Lee is a student and that the UCF Police Department is investigating. Lee was arrested and taken to the Orange County Jail. At his first appearance in court on Friday, the judge granted Lee a $6,500 bond amount and ordered he cannot have contact with the victim or return to the library. Now, see, there's one of those cases, Jess. He's been recording. He says it's his job. He's a repeat offender. $6,500.
That's crazy.
That's not going to stop him. He's making money on the deal, right?
It just tells you they don't consider it that big of a deal. Like, but for those girls, it's a major violation. It's super embarrassing.
Right. And, it's not just recording, a skirt or under the skirt, he's got a facial picture too, and he's recording everything and he's putting it out there.
Mm-hmm.
So she's forever violated. And to him, it's just another person.
Yeah. Just another day, just doing his job.
Yep. Just doing his job, making money. He's a piece of shit. I'll tell you. Anyway.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Our next story. Where do you think we're going, Jess?
Somewhere in Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like a gold mine. They
really are.
One man's trash, another man's treasure, right? Here's a headline, Jess. Arrest after coitus was interrupted. Cops say the man battered his partner over porn during sex.
What? That's not foreplay.
Maybe for her it was. Maybe he just didn't measure up. You know what I mean? A Florida man is behind bars for allegedly headbutting his girlfriend after she became upset when he began watching a pornographic video while they were having sex. Oh, the trash in this story is immense.
Dang.
According to court records, 44-year-old Donald Naples, let me show you a picture of him here, Jess. This is the guy right here who can't keep his mind on one thing.
What a jerk.
Oh, there he is right there. 44-year-old Donald Naples and the victim were recently engaged in consensual sexual intercourse when Naples simultaneously began engaging with some adult entertainment. In the old days, we called it split focus. Nowadays, I think it's called ADHD. Sure. Doesn't sexual ADHD sound like a new band?
Does
Yeah,
make a good t-shirt.
that would. Sexual ADHD. The 3 a.m. film session, however, did not sit well with the 50-year-old victim. These two sound like they're too old to be getting in trouble for this sort of stuff. The woman became upset by the defendant's actions and told him to stop. Cops say she also directed Naples to finish himself. Wow.
That's why he was really mad.
Yeah. Yeah. See, he should have kept his mind on what he was doing. Right?
Yep. You had the real thing right there.
That's right. You don't need no movie. You got it all right there, buddy.
You're living your own movie.
That's right. You gotta cross the finish line, right?
Yeah. Live in the moment, man.
You got to score the touchdown. You can't do the touchdown dance without scoring the touchdown first, right?
Yep.
During the argument that followed, Naples allegedly headbutted the victim in the nose, causing significant bleeding. Ooh, bad form, dude. If you think the two of you are getting together again for future coitus, not going to happen.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, I hope not.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening. It's not happening. The woman was transported to a local hospital and treated for her injuries. The couple, investigators reported, have been in a romantic relationship for approximately 6 months. Happy 6-month anniversary. Here's a headbutt.
Yeah, it's still relatively new.
I thought it was paper after 6 months, but it's a headbutt, evidently, right?
It's a headbutt. You did it wrong.
I did it all wrong. After being read his rights, Naples declined to provide police with a statement. Since he has a previous battery conviction, there's a shock on his record. The charge against Naples was enhanced to a felony count, locked up in lieu of $10,000 bond. Now we're getting it right. He has been ordered to have no contact with the victim. By the way, Naples was arrested last year for methamphetamine possession. There's a shock, but eventually pleaded to a reduced paraphernalia charge. He's also got convictions for robbery, marijuana possession, resisting, and violating probation on his rap sheet.
All right. Well, he's just a general degenerate. So there you go.
General Degenerate. There's another great band name. People don't take these band names from us.
I mean, if you do, at least give us a cut of the profit.
Right.
We'll manage you.
That's right. We'll manage you. But don't take our thunder here. That's all we're asking. All right, one more story and then our palate cleanser for the day. This poor woman. I'm going to show you a picture of this poor woman right here.
Okay.
This poor woman's been picked on by police.
Oh, no. Why?
I'm about to tell you, Jess. It's sad, really. We're going to end on a sad note today. Why do you think she was picked on by police, Jess?
I can't even begin to guess. I think police are supposed to be the good guys, so why would they pick on her?
Well, they normally are. They're the good guys.
Yeah.
Turns out, though, we're finally not going to Florida.
Where are we going?
Going overseas to England.
Okay.
Police caught by their own body cam playing with sex toys during a search.
Wait, what?
Did I blow your mind with that headline?
What?
Police caught by their own body cam playing with sex toys during a search.
Huh.
Yeah.
Are they using them on each other?
Whoa, hey, whoa. I think you took this one step further than we were meant to. An Essex woman, the one you just saw, said her marriage has fallen apart after body cams caught police officers laughing at her sex toys during a raid on her house.
Okay, why would that cause her marriage to fall apart now?
That's why the story gets even better. Are you ready?
Clearly had other issues going on, but okay, I'm curious.
51-year-old Nicola Kaur says Suffolk police searched her home as part of a drugs investigation allegedly involving a family member. During the raid, Nicola said officers were like children in a playground, throwing a G-string back and forth and pulling her 1,000 pounds of erotic gadgets out of the box while joking that they were sticky.
1,000 pounds?
Well, $1,000, 1,000 pounds.
Oh, I'm like in my head, I'm thinking like a giant box, like literally 1,000 pounds.
No, not weighing 1,000 pounds, but Yeah, 1,000 pounds
Okay, but
worth.
still, that's expensive,
Mhm.
right? And they were sticky. Ew, why are you touching them? Gross.
Well, they were joking that they were sticky, but they
Oh,
yeah, they're just, having some fun, because they're on body cam. So they're,
right.
having a bit of fun. She complained, and Suffolk police have now paid Nicola 3,500 pounds, not in weight, but in money, in compensation after its professional standards department found the officer's behavior to have been unacceptable and unprofessional. Nicola's marriage has fallen apart since the incident, she said, and she blames trauma from the incident for the divorce, saying it diminished the couple's sex life.
Seems like a stretch.
Yeah. Oh, look at how miserable. Oh, well, hold on. Here's a picture of her with the sex toys looking miserable.
Oh my gosh. She looks like she's smelling a fart. Like they smell bad.
It does look like she's in front of a box
What
of
is that face?
stinky, sticky sex toys. She's like, ew. I say these are gross.
Stinky, sticky sex toy.
That's a great album name, isn't it? General
Yeah.
Degenerate with stinky, sticky sex toys. That's a new album. The raid, which happened in October of 2023, was conducted on the suspicion that a family member was allegedly involved in the supply of controlled drugs. Nicola was not arrested, and the police investigation led to no charges or prosecutions. But it led to a whole box of sex toys being put out there, let's just say. Nicola said one of the male officers was at the bottom of the bed. He picked up a pair of knickers and threw them at the other male officer, and he looked down and said, "Did you just throw them at me?" After they threw the underwear, they found a box of toys. A young female officer got it down, put it on the bed, started pulling all the things out and saying, "Oh, this is sticky. Oh, this is sticky." Okay, Jess, now we're going to get really, really into it. Are you ready? Are you braced?
Mhm.
Are you braced?
Okay. I'm trying to be mentally prepared.
Nicola says, "There was a cock ring in the drawer. They made a point of it going, 'Oh, look, there's a cock ring.'" There's more. "They were taking the absolute piss. It was like they were children in a playground. The way they were acting, it was disgusting," she said. Suffolk, I know, right? Suffolk police force denied officers ever touched the sex toys, with a spokesperson saying a box containing sex toys was found, which was subject to comment and laughter from the officers, but at no point do they touch or play with the items. The underwear appeared to be moved in jest without any thought given for the upset this would cause to the owner. Here's Nicola holding her underwear.
Oh, come on. Now she's traumatizing herself even more. She's like in an article, like with her sex toys in a box and holding her underpants, like splayed out for everyone to see. Like, oh, come on.
Those things like they're a slingshot. Nicola said that while she didn't see the incident during the raid, she found out about the full extent of the officer's actions after requesting body cam footage.
If it was so embarrassing, why are you coming here and posing with it all now?
I think she's a bit of a voyeur. She wanted to see them go through her stuff.
Yeah.
She
Yeah,
kind of
it's
got
very
off.
weird. And they're humans. Like, I'm sorry. You have cock rings and sex toys and they are looking for drugs. They're looking through your stuff. It's their job.
Yeah. They're like,
They
what a
can
freak.
laugh. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. When I went up, she said, when I went up to check the house after they had left, there was a pair of my underwear from a sexy set, just a G-string laid out on my pillow, she said. They probably wanted to let you know they were there. I know there's no way if you throw a G-string, it's going to land perfectly on a pillow. It's like a sick person robbing you and giving a mark to say they were there. So I made a complaint. According to Nicola, the footage also shows an older officer telling their colleagues to turn off the body cam recording. She says she no longer trusts the police who are using their power over people. Suffolk police said the allegations were investigated by the Joint Norfolk and Suffolk Professional Standards Department. A force spokesperson said they determined the officer's behavior was deemed to be unacceptable and unprofessional, but was considered to be more due to the immaturity than spite. It was noted that all the officers involved were very young in terms of service and still undergoing training. One of the officers left the organization prior to the complaint being received. The 2 officers who remained in service were required to undertake reflective practice. How do you practice being reflective? As part of this process, the 2 officers who remain in service offered an apology to the complainant, and the detective inspector who investigated the allegations also offered an apology for their behavior, both verbally and in writing. I believe the apology went as such. Dear Nicola, buzz, 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 buzz. Sorry for touching your cock ring. Love, the inspector. I believe that's all. So there you go. All right.
Sounds about right.
Our palate cleanser today.
All right.
We're going back to Florida because we've been there for most of the program. So this is to prove, Jess, that even in today's world, you don't have to be in Gotham City to depend on a hero to come save the day.
I like a good superhero story.
Yeah. A Florida man in Batman pajamas stopped a burglary suspect last week.
Nice. It's like he's been preparing for this his whole life.
He has. He just needed a pair of underoos to get it done. Right? In one instance, a Florida man wearing Batman pajamas helped stop a burglary suspect in his neighborhood. According to the Cape Coral Police Department, early Wednesday, it responded to a burglary in progress at a home. When officers arrived, they found the suspect, 20-year-old Justin Schimple, already detained by a neighbor wearing Batman pajamas.
Aww.
The neighbor in question, dressed as Batman, was Kyle Mivett. Thank you, Kyle, for your bat service. Mivett told detectives that he had gone to bed when his home security cameras were alerted him to someone breaking into his vehicle. Mivett went outside to investigate and saw Schimple going through his truck. Moments later, Schimple was seen in his neighbor's garage. Mivett detained Schimple until officers arrived. Police say Schimple stole 2 pairs of Ray-Ban sunglasses valued at $300 each. Boy, I want his job if he's buying $300 Ray-Ban sunglasses. A women's wristlet and more than $500 in gift cards. Who keeps $500 gift cards in their truck?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that was what he got in his stocking from Santa. He
In
just
the
wanted to
middle
keep
of
them.
August? He's got $500 gift cards from Santa?
No. Christmas in July just happened.
I guess. During an interview with officers, Schimple claimed that another man was with him, but a search of the neighborhood did not result in the discovery of another suspect. Schimple's currently in the Lee County Jail and facing charges of burglary and petty theft. But Jess, let me show you a picture of our pajama Batman.
Oh my gosh, that is so legit. He slept in the
There he is. Right there.
In my brain, I was just thinking they were, like a button down and the matching bottoms with like Batman symbols on them, but he's legitimately dressed as Batman. That's like practically a costume.
This is a Batman pajama hero right here.
That's amazing.
Isn't it though? That's
Yeah,
it.
I love it.
Absolutely. That's a hero right there. They say, Jess, real heroes don't wear capes. This guy didn't have a cape on, but he did have underwear. See? Yep. So there you go. That, my friend, is how we end True Crime Tuesday today. So, all right. So that'll do it for today's show. I want to remind you that Something Big is the name of the book. It is Patrick Wohl. He's been our guest for today for True Crime Tuesday. We have a link in the description of this program. So go get that book. we encourage you to do so. Speaking of books, Jess, you've got not one, not two, not three, but is it 4 books, 5 books,
Yeah,
6 books?
4
7?
that came out. Yeah, 4 that came out last month.
Had 8 books that came out last month? 10 books that came out last month? How many that came out last month?
Just 4.
Just 4? Are you sure? You sure you don't have more out there?
Yeah, just 4.
Okay. And of course, to get those books, you go to the website. We have a link to the website in the description of this program. And if people want autographed books,
Yeah, just shoot me a message. I'm happy to hook you up with that.
all right. Also want to mention some great trips. Go to the events page, folks, on darknessradioshow.com. There's some great trips right now that you can take advantage of for the fall. Boy, fall is here now. It's officially here and it's ghost hunting season. Couple that I want to mention real quick. Our friends at Soul Circle in October, second weekend in October, will be in Virginia City, Nevada. Virginia City is so good. Such a good place to be investigating. But they're going to be at the Washoe Club. There's a link in over there at the events page to find out more about that trip. A lot of your favorites are going to be there, including. Well, I'll let you find out. Find out for yourself. Soul Circle, good company to go with. Our friends at Mysterious Adventures Tours have a couple of great tours for Halloween. Taker Stoker's taking you to Romania to party at Bran Castle for Halloween, the place that inspired Bram Stoker to write about Dracula and Dracula's castle. And Dracula's castle is fashioned after Bran Castle. You want to party at Dracula's castle for Halloween, don't you? I mean, come on.
Heck yeah.
Brian J. Cano is taking you to Ireland for Halloween, the place that where Halloween started, right? You're going to the Puka Festival for Halloween. I mean, man, these are some trips. These are bucket destinations, right? Bucket list destinations. So check it out. Go to the events page at darknessradioshow.com. There's links there for you to check that out and do some living this Halloween. Get out there and live for Halloween. And check out some of these bucket list destinations. By all means. Your friends here at Darkness Radio want you to get out and enjoy.
Treat yourself.
That's right. That's right. And the great thing about Mysterious Adventures Tours, you can do it in payments. So sign up for that payment plan. You can pay long after you've been on the trip. So there you go. All right. Tomorrow on the big program, Supernatural News with Travis Thorpe. Thursday, Jess. I'll just say this. We're venturing back into the world of aliens.
Ooh.
I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. It's a good tease.
So that's what we're doing Thursday. All right. So that'll do it for today. That's it. For Jessica Freeberg, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much, folks, for continuing to watch and listen to the best in true crime podcasting. We'll see you tomorrow for Supernatural News. You've been watching and listening to the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday.
For more audio and video archives of True Crime Tuesday, intriguing content, fun events, and cool swag, check out darknessradioshow.com. The executive producer of True Crime Tuesday is Troy Palmer. If you enjoyed today's program, be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. And be sure to tune in tomorrow for Supernatural News and pair a share with Travis Thorpe.